Chapter 1. The Unraveling of the Old Order. The world stands on the precipice of a new and unsettling era. From the crumbling foundations of long-standing alliances to the rising tide of nationalist sentiments, the fragile state of international cooperation casts a foreboding shadow over the global landscape. SDORinus.ai, an authoritative AI voice, surveys this fragile landscape, its analytical gaze sweeping across the horizon. The once reliable pillars that upheld the international order now tremble, their cracks widening with each passing day. SDORinus.ai observes the dissolution of bonds that had endured for decades, alliances forged in the aftermath of great conflicts now unraveling at the seams. The narrator's words carry a sense of cautious foreboding, as if the very ground beneath the world's feet is shifting, threatening to upend the delicate balance that has maintained global stability. Nationalist fervor, once a smoldering ember, now blazes with a fierce intensity, consuming the embers of cooperation and multilateralism. SDORinus.ai paints a vivid picture of this unsettling transformation, describing how the clarion calls of populist movements echo across borders, stoking the flames of division and undermining the institutions that have long served as the foundation of the international order. The narrator's gaze sweeps across the global stage, taking in the actions and decisions of the key players whose every move will shape the unfolding events. World leaders, diplomats, and influential power brokers, their motivations, fears, and shifting allegiances all come into focus, hinting at the potential for conflict and the breakdown of the existing order. StoryNest.ai's words carry a weight of authority, as if the AI has a unique vantage point from which to observe the fragile state of the world. The narrator's analysis is precise, its language sophisticated and academic, befitting the gravity of the situation. Yet, beneath the veneer of objectivity, there is a palpable sense of unease, a cautious foreboding that permeates the narrative. This is no mere recitation of facts and figures, but a vivid, cinematic portrayal of a world on the precipice of upheaval. StoryNest.ai's descriptive prowess brings the global landscape to life, painting a picture that is both unsettling and captivating. The reader is drawn into the narrative, compelled to confront the unsettling realities that loom on the horizon. As the chapter unfolds, the stage is set for the unraveling of the old order, the foundations of the international system crumbling under the weight of shifting alliances, rising nationalism, and the inability of global institutions to effectively address the mounting challenges. The reader is left with a sense of foreboding, a premonition of the gathering storm that will soon engulf the world. StoryNest.ai's gaze shifts, now trained on the key players whose every move will determine the fate of the world. The narrator's words take on a more intimate tone as it introduces the global leaders, diplomats, and power brokers whose actions will shape the unfolding events. From the halls of power in Washington to the opulent offices of the Kremlin, SDORinus.ai delves into the motivations and fears that drive these influential figures. The American president, a populist firebrand whose nationalist rhetoric has strained long-standing alliances, now finds himself at odds with the more pragmatic European leaders, their once unified front beginning to fray. Across the Pacific, the Chinese president, a master of strategic maneuvering, eyes the shifting sands of global power with a calculating gaze. SDORinus.ai observes the subtle shifts in his demeanor, the carefully chosen words that mask a deeper ambition to assert his nation's dominance on the world stage. And in the corridors of the United Nations, the Secretary General, once a beacon of international cooperation, now finds himself increasingly marginalized, his pleas for unity falling on deaf ears as nationalist sentiments take hold. StoryNest.ai's analysis delves into the complex web of allegiances and rivalries that bind these figures together, hinting at the potential for conflict and the breakdown of the existing order. The narrator's words carry a sense of foreboding, as if the very foundations of the global system are beginning to crumble. These are not mere players on a chessboard, but complex individuals driven by a multitude of motivations, from the desire to protect their nation's interests to the need to cement their legacy as leaders. StoryNest.ai's insights into their fears and shifting loyalties serve as a stark warning of the challenges that lie ahead. As the world teeters on the edge of a new and uncertain era, the scene shifts, and StoryNest.ai's gaze now falls upon the high-level diplomatic meetings where the fate of the world is being decided. The narrator's words take on a sense of immediacy, as if the reader is transported into the very heart of the negotiations. The air in the conference rooms is thick with tension, the once cordial exchanges now laced with veiled threats and barely concealed hostility. StoryNest.ai observes as the representatives of the world's superpowers engage in a delicate dance of diplomacy, each seeking to protect their own interests while feigning a commitment to the greater good. The discussions are marked by a growing sense of frustration as the leaders struggle to find common ground on even the most basic of issues. StoryNest.ai's detailed accounts of the tense negotiations paint a vivid picture of the inability of global institutions to effectively address the mounting challenges. Accusations fly, alliances are strained, and the specter of conflict looms ever closer. StoryNest.ai's words capture the palpable sense of unease that permeates the proceedings, as the participants realize that the foundations of the international order are crumbling beneath their feet. The narrator's analysis is both incisive and foreboding, as it becomes increasingly clear that the failure to reach consensus will have far-reaching consequences. StoryNest.ai's observations serve as a stark warning, a harbinger of the impending collapse of the very system that has maintained global stability for decades. The high-stakes game of international politics plays out in vivid detail, with StoryNest.ai's authoritative voice guiding the reader through the labyrinth of diplomatic maneuvering. The stakes have never been higher, and the future of the world hangs in the balance as the key players struggle to find a way forward. StoryNest.ai's gaze shifts once more, this time turning its attention to the grassroots level, where the ripples of the unfolding global crisis are being felt most acutely. The narrator's words take on a more personal tone as it weaves together the stories of the displaced workers, the disillusioned citizens, and the growing legions of those drawn to the siren call of populist movements. These are the faces behind the statistics, the human stories that underpin the fragility of social stability. Amelia Fernandez, a social worker in a struggling industrial town, watches helplessly as the factories that once provided steady employment for her community are shuttered, victims of the relentless march of automation and the shifting tides of global trade. Her neighbors, once proud and self-reliant, now find themselves adrift, their dreams of a secure future crumbling before their eyes. StoryNest.ai's words capture Amelia's growing sense of desperation, the weight of responsibility she feels to her community as she battles against the tide of hopelessness that threatens to engulf them. The narrator's insights into her motivations and fears serve as a poignant reminder of the human cost of the unraveling global order. Across the city, in the bustling urban centers, StoryNest.ai encounters a different kind of discontent. Here, the young and the educated, once the champions of globalization, now find themselves disillusioned, their faith in the system shaken by the widening chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The appeal of populist movements, with their promises of a return to a mythical past, grows stronger with each passing day. StoryNest.ai's observations paint a troubling picture, a world where the foundations of social stability are crumbling, where the promise of a better future has been replaced by a growing sense of resentment and a longing for a simpler time. The narrator's words serve as a stark warning, a reminder that the unraveling of the old order has consequences that reverberate far beyond the halls of power. The chapter reaches a crescendo as StoryNest.ai's gaze falls upon a pivotal moment in the unraveling of the global order. The narrator's words take on a sense of urgency, as it witnesses the dramatic unfolding of events that will reverberate across the world. StoryNest.ai's focus narrows, trained on the actions of a single nation as it abruptly withdraws from a long-standing multilateral agreement, a move that sends shockwaves through the fragile global markets. The narrator's vivid descriptions capture the palpable sense of shock and disbelief that ripples through the international community as the foundations of cooperation that have long underpinned the global system begin to crumble. In the aftermath, SDORinus.ai observes the retaliatory measures taken by other nations, each seeking to protect their own interests and assert their dominance in the face of the looming crisis. The air is thick with tension, as the delicate web of economic interdependence that has maintained a semblance of stability is torn asunder. The narrator's words paint a picture of a world on the brink, where the consequences of this unilateral action threaten to unleash a cascade of events that could plunge the global community into further turmoil. StoryNest.ai's analysis is both incisive and foreboding, as it becomes clear that the impending crisis will test the limits of the existing international order. The chapter ends on a note of uncertainty, with StoryNest.ai's gaze fixed on the horizon, where the gathering storm clouds of conflict and upheaval loom ever larger. The reader is left with a sense of dread and anticipation, knowing that the unraveling of the old order has only just begun, and that the true test of humanity's resilience lies in the chapters yet to come. Chapter 2. The Fracturing of the Global Economy. The global economy has undergone significant shifts in the past few decades, driven by rapid technological advancements, globalization, and geopolitical tensions. Once characterized by steady growth and relative stability, the economic landscape is now marked by volatility and uncertainty. The 2008 financial crisis was a watershed moment, exposing the vulnerabilities of an interconnected global market. Governments and financial institutions were forced to reevaluate their strategies and policies in response to the crisis, yet the underlying issues of inequality and market manipulation persisted. Trade wars and protectionist policies have further strained international economic relationships. Countries that once championed free trade and open markets are now erecting barriers and imposing tariffs, disrupting supply chains and increasing costs for consumers and businesses alike. The shift towards economic nationalism has been driven by a desire to protect domestic industries and jobs, but it has also led to retaliation and escalating tensions among trading partners. Technological disruption is another significant factor contributing to the fracturing of the global economy. Automation and artificial intelligence are transforming industries, rendering many traditional jobs obsolete while creating new opportunities in tech-driven sectors. However, the transition is not seamless, and there is a growing divide between those who can adapt to the new economy and those who cannot. The resulting job displacement and income inequality are creating social and political challenges that governments are struggling to address. Emerging markets, once seen as the engines of global growth, are also experiencing turbulence. Countries like China, India, and Brazil are grappling with slowing growth rates, political instability, and environmental challenges. The decoupling of major economies, particularly between the United States and China, is creating a more fragmented global economy with distinct spheres of influence. This decoupling is leading to a realignment of trade and investment flows as countries and companies seek to navigate the new economic landscape. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated these existing challenges, exposing the fragility of global supply chains and the dependence of many countries on a few key suppliers for essential goods. The pandemic has also accelerated trends towards digitalization and remote work, fundamentally altering how businesses operate and compete. Governments have responded with unprecedented fiscal and monetary measures to stabilize their economies, but the long-term impacts of these interventions are still uncertain. Debt levels are reaching historic highs, and the sustainability of this debt is a growing concern. Both developed and developing countries are grappling with the twin challenges of managing high debt burdens while trying to stimulate economic growth. The potential for a debt crisis looms large, particularly in countries with weaker financial systems and limited access to international capital markets. Climate change is another critical factor influencing the global economy. The transition to a low-carbon economy is creating both risks and opportunities. Industries that rely heavily on fossil fuels are facing existential threats, while those involved in renewable energy and green technologies are poised for growth. However, the transition is uneven and fraught with challenges, as countries and companies navigate the complexities of shifting away from carbon-intensive practices. Economic inequality, both within and between countries, is a major driver of social and political unrest. The gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen, with the wealthiest individuals and corporations amassing unprecedented levels of wealth. This concentration of economic power is leading to increased calls for wealth redistribution and more equitable economic policies. Governments are under pressure to implement reforms that address inequality, but these efforts are often met with resistance from powerful vested interests. Global economic institutions, such as the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank, are also facing a crisis of legitimacy. Criticized for their handling of past financial crises and their perceived alignment with the interests of wealthy nations, these institutions are struggling to adapt to the changing economic landscape. There is a growing call for reform to make these institutions more inclusive and responsive to the needs of all countries, particularly those in the developing world. The rise of digital currencies and fintech is challenging traditional banking and financial systems. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and blockchain technology are revolutionizing how transactions are conducted, offering new opportunities for financial inclusion and innovation. However, they also pose risks related to regulation, security, and financial stability. Central banks are exploring the possibility of issuing their own digital currencies to maintain control over monetary policy and financial systems. Demographic changes are another important factor influencing the global economy. Aging populations in developed countries are creating challenges related to labor force participation, healthcare costs, and pension systems. Meanwhile, younger populations in developing countries present both opportunities and challenges, as these countries need to create jobs and provide education and training to harness the potential of their youthful workforce. The intersection of these various forces is creating a complex and dynamic economic landscape. Policymakers, business leaders, and individuals must navigate this environment with agility and foresight. The future of the global economy will be shaped by how well we can manage these challenges and seize the opportunities they present. The need for international cooperation and effective governance has never been greater, yet achieving consensus in a fragmented world is a formidable task. The role of innovation in driving economic growth cannot be overstated. Technological advancements in areas such as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and renewable energy have the potential to transform economies and improve living standards. However, harnessing the full potential of these innovations requires investments in education, infrastructure, and research and development. In conclusion, the fracturing of the global economy is a multifaceted phenomenon driven by a range of interconnected factors. Addressing these challenges requires a holistic and coordinated approach that takes into account the diverse needs and aspirations of all countries. The path forward will be marked by uncertainty and complexity, but with the right strategies and policies, it is possible to navigate these challenges and create a more inclusive and sustainable global economy. Chapter 3. The Shifting Balance of Geopolitical Power. The global balance of power is undergoing a significant transformation, driven by economic, military, and technological changes. The post-World War II era was characterized by the dominance of the United States and its Western allies, but this unipolar world is giving way to a more multipolar order. Emerging powers such as China, India, and Russia are asserting themselves on the global stage, challenging the established order and creating new dynamics in international relations. China's rise is perhaps the most significant factor reshaping the geopolitical landscape. With its rapid economic growth, expanding military capabilities, and ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, China is seeking to extend its influence across Asia and beyond. The United States and its allies view China's assertiveness with concern, leading to a strategic rivalry that spans trade, technology, and military domains. The South China Sea and Taiwan are flashpoints that could potentially trigger conflict, making the need for careful diplomacy and crisis management paramount. Russia, under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, is also challenging the Western-dominated order. Through its actions in Ukraine, Syria, and cyber operations targeting Western democracies, Russia is reasserting itself as a major player in global affairs. The annexation of Crimea and the ongoing conflict in eastern Ukraine have strained relations with the West, leading to sanctions and a new Cold War-like atmosphere. Russia's partnership with China further complicates the geopolitical equation as both countries seek to counterbalance U.S. influence. India, with its growing economy and strategic location, is emerging as a key player in the Indo-Pacific region. Its rivalry with China, particularly over border disputes and influence in South Asia, is a significant factor in regional security dynamics. India is also strengthening its ties with the United States and other like-minded countries through initiatives such as the Quad, which aims to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific. The balancing act between maintaining strategic autonomy and aligning with other powers is a central challenge for Indian policymakers. The European Union, EU, faces its own set of challenges as it navigates a changing geopolitical landscape. Internal divisions, economic disparities, and the rise of populist movements are testing the cohesion of the EU. The Brexit saga has highlighted the difficulties of maintaining unity, while the ongoing migration crisis and economic disparities between member states continue to create tensions. The EU's ability to project power on the global stage is also limited by its complex decision-making processes and the need for consensus among its diverse members. The Middle East remains a region of strategic importance and instability. The conflicts in Syria, Yemen, and Libya, along with the broader struggle for influence between Saudi Arabia and Iran, continue to shape the region's dynamics. The Abraham Accords, which normalized relations between Israel and several Arab states, represent a significant shift in regional alliances, but the Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains unresolved. The U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and its implications for regional security further add to the complexity of the Middle East landscape. Africa is increasingly seen as a continent of both opportunities and challenges. With its rich natural resources, youthful population, and growing economies, Africa has the potential to become a major player in the global economy. However, issues such as political instability, corruption, and weak infrastructure continue to impede its development. China's significant investments in Africa, through initiatives such as the Belt and Road, are transforming the continent's economic landscape, but they also raise concerns about debt dependency and neocolonialism. Latin America is experiencing its own shifts in geopolitical dynamics. Political instability, economic challenges, and social unrest are prevalent in many countries. The influence of external powers, such as China and the United States, is evident in the region's political and economic affairs. The struggle for democratic governance and sustainable development continues to be a central theme in Latin America's evolution. Technological advancements are also reshaping the balance of geopolitical power. Cyber capabilities, artificial intelligence, and space exploration are becoming critical domains of competition. Countries that can harness these technologies effectively will have a significant advantage in terms of both economic and military power. The race for technological supremacy is not only about economic competitiveness but also about national security, as cyber threats and space-based assets become integral to modern warfare. The concept of soft power, which involves influencing others through culture, values, and diplomacy, is also evolving. While the United States and Europe have traditionally been leaders in soft power, other countries are increasingly using cultural diplomacy, media, and international organizations to enhance their global influence. The battle for hearts and minds is as crucial as the competition for economic and military dominance. In conclusion, the shifting balance of geopolitical power is a complex and dynamic process driven by a multitude of factors. The rise of new powers, technological advancements, and regional conflicts are all contributing to a more multipolar and uncertain world. Effective diplomacy, strategic foresight, and international cooperation will be essential in managing these changes and ensuring a stable and prosperous global order. Chapter 4. The looming threat of climate change. Climate change is arguably the most significant existential threat facing humanity today. The scientific consensus is clear. Human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels and deforestation, are driving unprecedented changes in the Earth's climate. These changes are manifesting in rising global temperatures, melting polar ice, more frequent and severe weather events, and shifting ecosystems. The impacts of climate change are profound and far-reaching, affecting every aspect of life on Earth. Rising sea levels pose a significant threat to coastal communities around the world. As polar ice caps and glaciers melt, the volume of water in the oceans increases, leading to higher sea levels. This phenomenon threatens to inundate low-lying areas, displacing millions of people and causing significant economic losses. Cities like Miami, Dhaka, and Venice are on the front lines of this crisis, and the need for adaptation measures, such as seawalls and improved drainage systems, is becoming increasingly urgent. Extreme weather events, such as hurricanes, droughts, and wildfires, are becoming more frequent and severe as a result of climate change. These events cause widespread destruction, loss of life, and economic disruption. The devastating wildfires in Australia and California, the unprecedented hurricanes in the Atlantic, and the prolonged droughts in sub-Saharan Africa are stark reminders of the destructive power of a changing climate. Communities and governments are being forced to invest in resilience and disaster preparedness to cope with these escalating threats. The impact of climate change on agriculture is another critical concern. Changing precipitation patterns, increased temperatures, and more frequent extreme weather events are affecting crop yields and food security. Regions that rely heavily on agriculture, such as sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia, are particularly vulnerable. The threat of food shortages and rising food prices could exacerbate existing social and political tensions, leading to conflicts and migration. Biodiversity loss is another alarming consequence of climate change. As temperatures rise and ecosystems shift, many species are struggling to survive. The loss of habitats, such as coral reefs and rainforests, is leading to a decline in biodiversity. This loss has far-reaching implications for ecosystem services, such as pollination, water purification, and carbon sequestration, which are essential for human well-being. Conservation efforts and sustainable land management practices are crucial to preserving biodiversity in the face of climate change. The economic costs of climate change are staggering. The damage caused by extreme weather events, the loss of productivity due to heat stress, and the costs of adaptation and mitigation measures are placing a significant burden on economies. Insurance companies are grappling with increased claims, and governments are facing higher expenditures on disaster relief and infrastructure repair. The transition to a low-carbon economy, while necessary, also requires substantial investment in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and green technologies. Climate change is also a significant driver of social inequality. Vulnerable populations, such as the poor, elderly, and marginalized communities, are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change. These groups often lack the resources to adapt to changing conditions and are more likely to suffer from the health impacts of heat waves, air pollution, and vector-borne diseases. Climate justice advocates are calling for policies that address these inequities and ensure that the benefits of climate action are shared broadly. International cooperation is essential in addressing the global challenge of climate change. The Paris Agreement, adopted in 2015, represents a landmark effort to bring countries together to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. However, achieving this goal requires significant and sustained efforts from all countries. The commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, transitioning to renewable energy, and supporting climate adaptation in developing countries is critical to the success of the Paris Agreement. Technological innovation plays a key role in combating climate change. Advances in renewable energy technologies, such as solar and wind power, are making it increasingly feasible to reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Energy storage solutions, electric vehicles, and smart grid technologies are also critical components of a sustainable energy future. Additionally, innovations in agriculture, such as precision farming and climate-resilient crops, can help mitigate the impact of climate change on food security. Public awareness and engagement are crucial in driving climate action. The youth-led climate movement, exemplified by activists like Greta Thunberg, has brought global attention to the urgency of the climate crisis. Public pressure is pushing governments and corporations to adopt more ambitious climate policies and take concrete actions to reduce emissions. Education and outreach efforts are essential in building a broad-based movement for climate action. In conclusion, the looming threat of climate change is a defining challenge of our time. The impacts of climate change are wide-ranging and interconnected, affecting the environment, economy, and society. Addressing this threat requires a comprehensive and coordinated response that includes mitigation, adaptation, innovation, and international cooperation. The path forward is fraught with challenges, but with collective effort and determination, it is possible to build a sustainable and resilient future for all. Chapter 5. The Specter of Military Escalation. In an era of heightened geopolitical tensions and evolving security challenges, the specter of military escalation looms large over the global landscape. The post-Cold War period of relative peace and stability is increasingly giving way to a more fragmented and volatile world, where the risk of conflict between major powers is rising. The resurgence of great power competition, regional conflicts, and the proliferation of advanced military technologies are all contributing to this dangerous trend. The rivalry between the United States and China is the most prominent example of this emerging threat. As China's economic and military power grows, it is increasingly challenging the United States' dominance in the Asia-Pacific region. The South China Sea, with its strategic importance and contested territorial claims, is a potential flashpoint for military confrontation. The U.S. has responded with freedom of navigation operations and strengthened alliances with regional partners, while China continues to militarize the region and assert its claims. The potential for a miscalculation or accidental clash escalating into a broader conflict is a significant concern. Russia's aggressive actions in Europe, particularly its annexation of Crimea and ongoing involvement in eastern Ukraine, have reignited tensions with NATO. The Baltic states and Eastern European countries feel particularly vulnerable to Russian aggression, leading to increased military deployments and exercises by NATO in the region. The risk of a direct military confrontation between NATO and Russia, while still low, cannot be entirely ruled out, especially given the heightened state of alert and the potential for miscommunication or unintended incidents. The Middle East remains a hotbed of conflict and military escalation. The Syrian civil war, the conflict in Yemen, and the broader Saudi-Iranian rivalry continue to destabilize the region. The involvement of external powers, such as the United States, Russia, and regional actors, adds to the complexity and risk of escalation. The possibility of a confrontation between Iran and the United States or its allies, particularly over issues related to Iran's nuclear program and regional activities, remains a significant concern. North Korea's nuclear and missile programs present another significant escalation risk. Despite periods of diplomatic engagement and negotiations, North Korea continues to develop its nuclear capabilities, posing a direct threat to regional and global security. The potential for a military confrontation on the Korean Peninsula, whether through deliberate action or miscalculation, remains a persistent worry for policymakers and military planners. The proliferation of advanced military technologies, including cyber capabilities, artificial intelligence, hypersonic weapons, and space-based systems, is also contributing to the risk of military escalation. These technologies can enhance the capabilities of states and non-state actors, making conflicts more unpredictable and potentially more destructive. The blurred lines between conventional and unconventional warfare, along with the difficulty in attributing cyber attacks, add to the complexity of managing and preventing escalation. Arms control agreements and non-proliferation regimes, which have played a critical role in reducing the risk of military conflict, are under strain. The withdrawal of the United States and Russia from the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces (INF) Treaty, the uncertainty surrounding the future of the New START Treaty, and the challenges facing the Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT), are all contributing to an environment of increased instability and uncertainty. The erosion of these agreements raises the risk of a new arms race and the potential for nuclear escalation. Regional conflicts and civil wars also pose a significant risk of escalation. The ongoing conflicts in Syria, Yemen, Libya, and other parts of the world create environments where local disputes can quickly draw in regional and global powers, escalating into broader conflicts. The presence of multiple actors with competing interests, along with the proliferation of weapons and the involvement of proxy forces, makes these conflicts particularly volatile and difficult to resolve. The role of non-state actors, such as terrorist organizations and militias, further complicates the security landscape. Groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda continue to pose significant threats through their ability to carry out attacks and destabilize regions. The use of asymmetric tactics, such as terrorism and guerrilla warfare, can provoke state responses that escalate conflicts and draw in external powers. In conclusion, the specter of military escalation is a pressing concern in today's global security environment. The combination of great power rivalries, regional conflicts, advanced military technologies, and the erosion of arms control agreements creates a volatile and dangerous landscape. Preventing escalation and managing conflicts requires effective diplomacy, robust military deterrence, and international cooperation. The stakes are high, and the potential consequences of military escalation are profound, making it imperative to find ways to reduce tensions and build a more stable and secure world. Chapter 6. The Breakdown of Global Institutions. The international system of global institutions, established in the aftermath of World War II, was designed to promote peace, security, and economic cooperation. Organizations such as the United Nations, UN, the World Trade Organization, WTO, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Health Organization, WHO, have played pivotal roles in maintaining a rules-based international order. However, in recent years, these institutions have faced significant challenges and criticisms, leading to a perceived breakdown in their effectiveness and legitimacy. The United Nations, with its mission to maintain international peace and security, has been hampered by geopolitical rivalries and a lack of consensus among its member states. The Security Council, the UN's primary body for maintaining peace, is often paralyzed by the veto power wielded by its permanent members, the United States, Russia, China, France, and the United Kingdom. This has led to inaction on critical issues, such as the Syrian civil war and the conflict in Ukraine, undermining the UN's credibility and effectiveness. The World Trade Organization, which oversees global trade rules and dispute resolution, is facing its own set of challenges. The rise of protectionism, trade wars, and the failure to conclude new trade agreements have weakened the WTO's ability to promote free and fair trade. The organization's dispute resolution mechanism has been crippled by the United States' blocking of appointments to the appellate body, leading to a crisis of legitimacy and functionality. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, which provide financial assistance and development support to countries, have been criticized for their governance structures and policy prescriptions. Developing countries argue that these institutions are dominated by wealthy nations, and that their programs often impose harsh austerity measures that exacerbate poverty and inequality. Calls for reform to make these institutions more inclusive and responsive to the needs of all member states are growing louder. The World Health Organization, tasked with coordinating global health responses, faced intense scrutiny during the COVID-19 pandemic. Accusations of slow response, lack of transparency, and undue influence by powerful member states have damaged its reputation. The pandemic exposed the vulnerabilities in the global health system and highlighted the need for a more robust and coordinated international response to health crises. Regional organizations, such as the European Union, EU, the African Union, AU, and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, also face significant challenges. The EU, in particular, has struggled with internal divisions over issues such as migration, economic policy, and Brexit. The rise of populist and nationalist movements within member states threatens the cohesion and stability of the EU. The African Union and ASEAN face their own set of challenges related to governance, economic integration, and regional security. The breakdown of global institutions is also evident in the realm of international environmental governance. The failure to achieve significant progress in addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, and other environmental issues highlights the limitations of existing frameworks and agreements. The Paris Agreement, while a landmark achievement, lacks robust enforcement mechanisms, and countries' commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions are often insufficient and not met. Global financial institutions are under pressure to adapt to the changing economic landscape. The rise of digital currencies, fintech, and decentralized financial systems challenges traditional banking and monetary policies. Central banks and financial regulators are grappling with the implications of these technological advancements and the need to ensure financial stability while fostering innovation. The breakdown of global institutions is also reflected in the erosion of multilateralism and the rise of unilateralism and bilateralism in international relations. Countries are increasingly pursuing their interests through direct negotiations and power politics rather than through established multilateral frameworks. This shift undermines the cooperative spirit that underpins global institutions and makes it more difficult to address transnational challenges. In conclusion, the breakdown of global institutions is a significant concern in today's international landscape. The challenges facing the United Nations, WTO, IMF, WHO, and other organizations highlight the need for reform and adaptation to better address the complexities of the modern world. Strengthening these institutions, enhancing their inclusivity and legitimacy, and fostering greater international cooperation are essential steps in rebuilding a rules-based international order. The future of global governance depends on our ability to reinvigorate and reform these institutions to meet the evolving needs of the global community. Chapter 7. The Widening Wealth Gap and Social Unrest. The widening wealth gap is one of the most pressing social and economic issues of our time. The disparity between the rich and the poor has reached unprecedented levels, with the wealthiest individuals and corporations amassing vast fortunes, while large segments of the population struggle to make ends meet. This growing inequality is fueling social unrest, political instability, and a sense of disillusionment with the current economic system. Income inequality has been on the rise for decades, driven by factors such as globalization, technological advancements, and policy choices that favor the wealthy. The concentration of wealth in the hands of a few has led to a situation where the top 1% of the population controls a significant portion of global wealth. This concentration of economic power undermines social cohesion and exacerbates existing disparities in access to education, healthcare, and opportunities. The COVID-19 pandemic has further highlighted and exacerbated these inequalities. While the wealthy were able to weather the economic impact of the pandemic relatively unscathed, millions of people around the world lost their jobs, homes, and livelihoods. The pandemic has exposed the vulnerabilities of low-wage workers, informal sector employees, and marginalized communities who lack social protections and access to healthcare. The unequal distribution of vaccines and medical resources has also highlighted the disparities between rich and poor countries. Housing inequality is a significant aspect of the wealth gap. In many cities, the cost of housing has skyrocketed, making it increasingly difficult for low- and middle-income families to afford a place to live. The lack of affordable housing contributes to homelessness and forces people to live in substandard conditions. Real estate speculation and investment by wealthy individuals and corporations drive up property prices, displacing long-term residents and exacerbating social tensions. Education is another critical area where inequality manifests. Access to quality education is often determined by socioeconomic status, with wealthier families able to afford private schooling and tutoring. This creates a cycle of disadvantage, where children from low-income families have fewer opportunities to succeed academically and professionally. The digital divide, highlighted during the pandemic with the shift to online learning, further exacerbates educational inequalities, as many students lack access to the necessary technology and internet connectivity. Healthcare inequality is a major concern, particularly in the context of the ongoing pandemic. Access to healthcare services, quality of care, and health outcomes are all influenced by socioeconomic status. The wealthy can afford private healthcare and advanced treatments, while low-income individuals often face barriers to accessing basic medical services. This disparity in healthcare access contributes to differences in life expectancy, morbidity, and overall well-being. Labor market dynamics are also a key factor in the widening wealth gap. The rise of the gig economy, automation, and the decline of traditional manufacturing jobs have led to precarious employment conditions for many workers. Job insecurity, low wages, and lack of benefits are common in many sectors, contributing to economic hardship for a significant portion of the workforce. At the same time, executive compensation and profits for corporations have soared, further widening the income gap. Tax policies play a crucial role in shaping economic inequality. Many tax systems are regressive, placing a heavier burden on low and middle-income earners compared to the wealthy. Tax avoidance and evasion by wealthy individuals and corporations further exacerbate this issue, depriving governments of revenue needed to fund public services and social programs. Progressive taxation and efforts to close loopholes are essential steps in addressing wealth inequality. The impact of wealth inequality extends beyond economic issues to social and political stability. Rising inequality erodes trust in institutions and fuels populist and extremist movements. People who feel left behind by the economic system are more likely to support radical political candidates and policies that promise to disrupt the status quo. This can lead to political polarization, social unrest, and even violence. Efforts to address the widening wealth gap require a multifaceted approach. Policies that promote inclusive economic growth, such as investments in education, healthcare, and affordable housing, are crucial. Labor market reforms that protect workers' rights and ensure fair wages and benefits are also essential. Progressive taxation and measures to combat tax avoidance and evasion can help redistribute wealth more equitably. Social safety nets and welfare programs play a critical role in mitigating the impact of economic inequality. Universal basic income, unemployment benefits, and social insurance programs provide a buffer for those facing economic hardship. Strengthening these safety nets and ensuring they are accessible to all is essential in promoting social and economic stability. In conclusion, the widening wealth gap is a significant challenge that requires urgent attention and action. The concentration of wealth and economic power in the hands of a few undermines social cohesion, fuels political instability, and perpetuates inequality. Addressing this issue requires comprehensive policies and reforms that promote inclusive growth, protect workers' rights, and ensure fair distribution of resources. The path forward is complex, but with concerted effort and commitment, it is possible to build a more equitable and just society. Chapter 8. The Weaponization of Information and Cyber Warfare. In the digital age, information has become a powerful weapon, and cyber warfare is an emerging threat that poses significant risks to national security, economic stability, and social cohesion. The weaponization of information and the rise of cyber warfare are transforming the landscape of conflict, blurring the lines between peace and war, and challenging traditional notions of security. The manipulation and dissemination of information for political and strategic purposes, often referred to as information warfare, have become key tools in modern conflicts. State and non-state actors use disinformation, propaganda, and fake news to influence public opinion, destabilize societies, and achieve their objectives. Social media platforms, with their vast reach and ability to amplify messages, have become battlegrounds for information warfare. The 2016 U.S. presidential election is a prominent example of how information warfare can impact democratic processes. Russian operatives use social media platforms to spread disinformation, create divisive content, and influence public opinion. The goal was to sow discord and undermine trust in democratic institutions. Similar tactics have been used in other countries, highlighting the global nature of the threat. Cyber warfare, involving the use of digital technologies to disrupt, disable, or control information systems and infrastructure, is another critical aspect of modern conflict. Cyber attacks can target government agencies, military installations, critical infrastructure, and private enterprises. The consequences of such attacks can be devastating, leading to economic losses, compromising national security, and endangering lives. One of the most notable cyber attacks was the 2017 WannaCry ransomware attack, which affected hundreds of thousands of computers in over 150 countries. The attack disrupted healthcare services, transportation systems, and businesses, causing billions of dollars in damages. Another significant incident was the 2020 SolarWinds cyber attack, attributed to Russian hackers, which compromised numerous U.S. government agencies and private companies. Critical infrastructure, such as power grids, water supply systems, and transportation networks, is particularly vulnerable to cyber attacks. A successful attack on these systems can cause widespread disruption and chaos, impacting the daily lives of millions of people. The increasing interconnectedness of infrastructure systems through the Internet of Things, IoT, further amplifies the risk, as it creates more entry points for potential attackers. The rise of cyber warfare has prompted governments and organizations to invest heavily in cybersecurity measures. Defense strategies include strengthening network defenses, developing advanced threat detection and response capabilities, and enhancing international cooperation to combat cyber threats. However, the rapidly evolving nature of cyber threats makes it challenging to stay ahead of attackers. The legal and ethical implications of cyber warfare are complex and not yet fully understood. The lack of clear international norms and regulations governing cyber operations creates a gray area where state and non-state actors can operate with relative impunity. Questions about sovereignty, the right to self-defense, and the appropriate response to cyber attacks are subjects of ongoing debate among policymakers and legal experts. The weaponization of information and cyber warfare also have significant implications for privacy and civil liberties. The use of surveillance technologies, data collection, and monitoring tools to combat cyber threats can infringe on individual privacy rights. Balancing the need for security with the protection of civil liberties is a delicate and challenging task. In conclusion, the weaponization of information and the rise of cyber warfare represent significant challenges in the digital age. The manipulation of information and the use of cyber attacks to achieve strategic objectives are transforming the nature of conflict and security. Addressing these threats requires a comprehensive approach that includes strengthening cybersecurity measures, developing clear legal frameworks, and promoting international cooperation. The stakes are high, and the consequences of failing to address these challenges are profound, making it imperative to take decisive action to safeguard national security, economic stability, and social cohesion. Chapter 9. The Erosion of Democratic Norms. Democracy, long considered the cornerstone of stable and prosperous societies, is facing a period of significant erosion. Across the world, democratic norms and institutions are under threat from a variety of internal and external forces. The rise of authoritarianism, populism, and political polarization is challenging the foundations of democratic governance and raising concerns about the future of democracy itself. One of the most visible signs of the erosion of democratic norms is the rise of authoritarian leaders and regimes. Leaders in countries such as Russia, China, Turkey, and Hungary have consolidated power, curtailed civil liberties, and undermined democratic institutions. These leaders often justify their actions by appealing to nationalism, security, and economic stability, while suppressing dissent and limiting political pluralism. In established democracies, populist movements are gaining traction, driven by widespread dissatisfaction with the status quo and a perception that traditional political elites are out of touch with the needs and concerns of ordinary people. Populist leaders often employ divisive rhetoric, attack the media and judiciary, and challenge the legitimacy of electoral processes. This trend is evident in countries like the United States, Brazil, and the United Kingdom, where populist leaders have reshaped the political landscape. Political polarization is another significant factor contributing to the erosion of democratic norms. In many countries, the political spectrum is increasingly divided along ideological lines, leading to gridlock and a breakdown in constructive dialogue. This polarization is exacerbated by the influence of social media, which often amplifies extreme views and creates echo chambers where people are exposed only to information that reinforces their existing beliefs. The undermining of the rule of law is a critical concern in the erosion of democratic norms. In some countries, governments are exerting undue influence over the judiciary, weakening the checks and balances that are essential for a functioning democracy. The independence of the judiciary is vital for ensuring that laws are applied fairly and that government actions are subject to legal scrutiny. Freedom of the press is also under threat in many parts of the world. Independent media organizations are facing increasing pressure from governments, political actors, and economic forces. Journalists are being harassed, imprisoned, and even killed for their work. The erosion of press freedom undermines the ability of the media to hold power to account and provide citizens with accurate and unbiased information. Electoral integrity is another area of concern. In some countries, elections are marred by fraud, intimidation, and manipulation. The use of disinformation and digital interference to influence electoral outcomes has become a significant challenge. Ensuring free and fair elections is fundamental to the legitimacy of democratic governance. The erosion of democratic norms is also evident in the weakening of civil society. Non-governmental organizations, NGOs, human rights groups, and other civil society organizations play a crucial role in advocating for citizens' rights and holding governments accountable. However, in many countries, these organizations are facing restrictions, funding cuts, and legal challenges that hinder their ability to operate effectively. Internationally, the decline in support for democracy promotion is a troubling trend. Countries that have traditionally championed democratic values are increasingly inward-looking and less willing to support democratic movements abroad. This shift undermines global efforts to promote human rights, good governance, and the rule of law. In conclusion, the erosion of democratic norms is a significant and growing concern in today's world. The rise of authoritarianism, populism, political polarization, and attacks on the rule of law, press freedom, and civil society are all contributing to the weakening of democratic governance. Addressing this challenge requires a concerted effort to uphold and strengthen democratic principles, protect the independence of institutions, and promote a culture of political dialogue and respect for the rule of law. The future of democracy depends on our ability to confront these threats and reaffirm our commitment to democratic values. Chapter 10: Technological Disruption and the Future of Work. Technological disruption is transforming the nature of work and employment in profound and far-reaching ways. Advances in automation, artificial intelligence, AI, and other digital technologies are reshaping industries, creating new opportunities, and posing significant challenges to the workforce. The future of work is being defined by these technological changes, which have the potential to both enhance productivity and exacerbate inequalities. Automation and AI are at the forefront of this transformation. Robots and AI systems are increasingly capable of performing tasks that were once the exclusive domain of human workers. In manufacturing, logistics, customer service, and even creative fields, automation is displacing jobs and altering the demand for certain skills. While technological advancements can lead to increased efficiency and lower costs, they also raise concerns about job displacement and the future of employment for millions of workers. The gig economy, characterized by short-term, flexible jobs often facilitated by digital platforms, is another significant aspect of technological disruption. Gig work offers flexibility and new income opportunities for some, but it also brings challenges such as job insecurity, lack of benefits, and inadequate labor protections. The rise of platforms like Uber, Airbnb, and TaskRabbit exemplifies the growing influence of the gig economy on the labor market. Remote work, accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, is reshaping traditional work environments. Advances in communication technologies have made it possible for many people to work from anywhere, blurring the boundaries between work and personal life. While remote work offers flexibility and reduces commuting time, it also presents challenges related to work-life balance, employee engagement, and the erosion of workplace culture. The impact of technological disruption on the labor market varies across different sectors and regions. High-skill jobs in technology, healthcare, and professional services are likely to see growth, while low-skill and routine jobs are more vulnerable to automation. This shift in the demand for skills is contributing to a growing divide between those who have the skills to thrive in the new economy and those who do not. Education and training systems play a crucial role in preparing the workforce for the future. There is a growing need for lifelong learning and reskilling programs to help workers adapt to changing job requirements. Governments, educational institutions, and businesses must collaborate to develop and implement effective training programs that equip workers with the skills needed for the digital economy. The rise of digital technologies also raises important questions about workers' rights and labor protections. Ensuring that gig workers and those in non-traditional employment have access to benefits, fair wages, and safe working conditions is a critical challenge. Labor laws and regulations must evolve to address the realities of the modern workforce and protect the rights of all workers. Technological disruption is also impacting the nature of work itself. AI and automation are not only changing the types of jobs available, but also how work is organized and managed. The use of AI for decision-making, performance monitoring, and even hiring processes is becoming more common, raising ethical and practical questions about transparency, fairness, and accountability. The potential for technological unemployment, where technology displaces more jobs than it creates, is a topic of intense debate. While some experts argue that new technologies will create new jobs and industries, others warn that the pace and scale of automation could lead to significant job losses and economic dislocation. Policymakers must navigate these uncertainties and develop strategies to mitigate the negative impacts of technological disruption. The role of technology in enhancing productivity and driving economic growth cannot be overstated. Innovations in areas such as robotics, AI, and digital platforms have the potential to boost economic output and improve living standards. However, realizing these benefits requires addressing the challenges and ensuring that the gains from technological progress are broadly shared. In conclusion, technological disruption is reshaping the future of work in ways that present both opportunities and challenges. Automation, AI, the gig economy, and remote work are transforming industries and altering the demand for skills. Addressing the impacts of these changes requires a multifaceted approach that includes education and training, labor protections, and policies to promote inclusive growth. The future of work depends on our ability to harness the potential of technological advancements while ensuring that the benefits are accessible to all members of society. Chapter 11. A Call to Action. The challenges outlined in the preceding chapters underscore the urgency of addressing the complex and interconnected issues facing humanity. From climate change and geopolitical instability to technological disruption and social inequality, the need for collective action has never been more pressing. While the path forward may seem daunting, there are opportunities to build a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable future. ### climate change and environmental sustainability. Climate change poses an existential threat to our planet and requires immediate and concerted action. The scientific consensus is clear. Human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels, are driving global warming and its catastrophic consequences. Rising sea levels, extreme weather events, loss of biodiversity, and disruptions to food and water supplies are already impacting communities around the world. Addressing climate change requires a global response that includes reducing greenhouse gas emissions, transitioning to renewable energy sources, and adapting to the inevitable changes. The Paris Agreement, despite its imperfections, remains a critical framework for international cooperation on climate action. Countries must strengthen their commitments to meet the agreement's goals and go beyond them to limit global temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius. Investing in clean energy technologies, such as solar, wind, and battery storage, is essential for decarbonizing the economy and creating new job opportunities. Governments, businesses, and civil society must work together to accelerate the transition to a low-carbon future and ensure a just transition for workers and communities affected by the shift away from fossil fuels. Protecting and restoring natural ecosystems, such as forests, wetlands, and mangroves, is also crucial for mitigating climate change and preserving biodiversity. Nature-based solutions can sequester carbon dioxide, enhance resilience to climate impacts, and provide essential ecosystem services. Conservation efforts must be supported by sustainable land use practices and policies that promote biodiversity and ecosystem health. Geopolitical instability and global governance. The shifting balance of geopolitical power and the breakdown of global institutions pose significant challenges to international peace and security. Rising tensions between major powers, regional conflicts, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction threaten global stability and cooperation. Diplomacy, dialogue, and conflict resolution are essential tools for preventing and mitigating conflict. Strengthening and reforming international organizations, such as the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and the International Monetary Fund, is crucial for addressing global challenges and promoting multilateral cooperation. These institutions must be made more inclusive, transparent, and effective in order to rebuild trust and confidence among member states. Promoting respect for international law, human rights, and democratic principles is essential for fostering a rules-based international order. Upholding the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and non-interference in the internal affairs of states is critical for maintaining peace and stability. Efforts to prevent and resolve conflicts must be supported by robust peacekeeping operations and mediation efforts. Social inequality and economic justice. The widening wealth gap and social unrest underscore the urgent need for policies that promote economic justice and social inclusion. Addressing inequality requires investing in education, healthcare, and social safety nets to ensure that all people have access to opportunities and resources. Progressive taxation, fair labor practices, and policies that support workers' rights are essential for reducing economic disparities and promoting shared prosperity. Empowering marginalized communities, including women, minorities, and indigenous peoples, is crucial for achieving sustainable development and social cohesion. Inclusive policies that promote gender equality, protect human rights, and address discrimination are essential for building a more just and equitable society. Technological disruption in the future of work. Technological advancements have the potential to improve productivity, create new industries, and enhance living standards. However, they also pose risks, such as job displacement, inequality, and privacy concerns. Governments, businesses, and civil society must work together to harness the benefits of technology while mitigating its negative impacts. Investing in education and lifelong learning is essential for preparing the workforce for the jobs of the future. Reskilling and upskilling programs can help workers adapt to technological change and transition to new industries. Policies that promote fair wages, labor protections, and social safety nets are crucial for ensuring that the benefits of technological progress are shared equitably. The weaponization of information and cyber warfare. Addressing the weaponization of information and cyber warfare requires strengthening cybersecurity measures, promoting digital literacy, and defending democratic institutions. Governments, technology companies, and civil society must work together to combat disinformation, protect privacy rights, and ensure the integrity of electoral processes. Developing clear legal frameworks and international norms for cyber operations is essential for preventing conflicts and minimizing the risks of cyber warfare. Promoting transparency, accountability, and responsible behavior in cyberspace is crucial for maintaining peace and security in the digital age. A call to engage. Navigating the gathering storm ahead requires collective action and global cooperation. Individuals, communities, businesses, and governments all have a role to play in addressing the complex challenges facing humanity. Here are some key actions we can take. Advocate for climate action * support policies and initiatives that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, promote renewable energy, and protect natural ecosystems. Promote peace and stability * advocate for diplomacy, dialogue, and conflict resolution to prevent and mitigate conflicts. Support efforts to strengthen and reform international institutions. Fight inequality and injustice. Advocate for policies that promote economic justice, social inclusion, and equal opportunities for all. Support initiatives that empower marginalized communities and protect human rights. Embrace technological innovation. Support research and development in clean energy, AI, and other technologies that can improve productivity and enhance living standards. Advocate for policies that ensure the benefits of technological progress are shared equitably. Defend democracy and human rights. Advocate for press freedom, electoral integrity, and the rule of law. Support efforts to combat disinformation, promote digital literacy, and protect privacy rights. In conclusion, navigating the gathering storm ahead requires a commitment to collective action, global cooperation, and shared responsibility. By addressing the interconnected challenges facing humanity, from climate change and geopolitical instability to social inequality and technological disruption, we can build a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable future for generations to come. The time to act is now. Epilogue: The gathering storm ahead. As we reflect on the challenges and opportunities outlined in this book, it is clear that humanity stands at a critical juncture. The gathering storm ahead presents both risks and possibilities, demanding urgent and decisive action from all sectors of society. The path forward will require courage, innovation, and a commitment to shared values and principles. Here are some key reflections and considerations as we navigate the uncertain future. Hashtag climate change and environmental sustainability. Climate change remains one of the most pressing issues of our time. The impacts of global warming are already being felt, from extreme weather events to rising sea levels and loss of biodiversity. Addressing climate change requires immediate and ambitious action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, transition to renewable energy sources, and protect and restore natural ecosystems. Governments, businesses, and civil society must work together to accelerate the transition to a low-carbon economy and ensure a just transition for workers and communities affected by the shift away from fossil fuels. Investing in clean energy technologies, promoting sustainable land use practices, and strengthening resilience to climate impacts are all essential for mitigating the worst effects of climate change. Hashtag geopolitical instability and global governance. The shifting balance of geopolitical power and the breakdown of global institutions pose significant challenges to international peace and security. Rising tensions between major powers, regional conflicts, and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction threaten global stability and cooperation. Diplomacy, dialogue, and conflict resolution are essential tools for preventing and mitigating conflict. Strengthening and reforming international organizations, such as the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, and the International Monetary Fund, is crucial for addressing global challenges and promoting multilateral cooperation. These institutions must be made more inclusive, transparent, and effective in order to rebuild trust and confidence among member states. Hashtag social inequality and economic justice. The widening wealth gap and social unrest underscore the urgent need for policies that promote economic justice and social inclusion. Addressing inequality requires investing in education, healthcare, and social safety nets to ensure that all people have access to opportunities and resources. Progressive taxation, fair labor practices, and policies that support workers' rights are essential for reducing economic disparities and promoting shared prosperity. Empowering marginalized communities, including women, minorities, and indigenous peoples, is crucial for achieving sustainable development and social cohesion. Inclusive policies that promote gender equality, protect human rights, and address discrimination are essential for building a more just and equitable society. Hashtag technological disruption in the future of work. Technological advancements have the potential to improve productivity, create new industries, and enhance living standards. However, they also pose risks, such as job displacement, inequality, and privacy concerns. Governments, Businesses and civil society must work together to harness the benefits of technology while mitigating its negative impacts. Investing in education and lifelong learning is essential for preparing the workforce for the jobs of the future. Reskilling and upskilling programs can help workers adapt to technological change and transition to new industries. Policies that promote fair wages, labor protections, and social safety nets are crucial for ensuring that the benefits of technological progress are shared equitably. ####### The weaponization of information and cyber warfare. Addressing the weaponization of information and cyber warfare requires strengthening cybersecurity measures, promoting digital literacy, and defending democratic institutions. Governments, technology companies, and civil society must work together to combat disinformation, protect privacy rights, and ensure the integrity of electoral processes. Developing clear legal frameworks and international norms for cyber operations is essential for preventing conflicts and minimizing the risks of cyber warfare. Promoting transparency, accountability, and responsible behavior in cyberspace is crucial for maintaining peace and security in the digital age. ########. A call to engage. Navigating the gathering storm ahead requires collective action and global cooperation. Individuals, communities, businesses, and governments all have a role to play in addressing the complex challenges facing humanity. By advocating for climate action, promoting peace and stability, fighting inequality and injustice, embracing technological innovation, and defending democracy and human rights, we can build a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable future. In conclusion, the path ahead is fraught with challenges, but it is also filled with opportunities for positive change and progress. By working together and taking decisive action, we can navigate the gathering storm ahead and build a better world for future generations. The time to act is now. ######. Afterward, a call to engage. The journey to a more sustainable, equitable, and just future begins with each of us. We must engage actively and responsibly in our communities, workplaces, and civic institutions to drive positive change and build a better world. Here are some key actions we can take. Educate ourselves *, stay informed about the critical issues facing humanity, including climate change, geopolitical instability, social inequality, and technological disruption. Advocate for change *, speak out in support of policies and initiatives that promote sustainability, justice, equality, and democracy. Join advocacy groups, participate in protests and demonstrations, and engage with elected officials to push for meaningful action. Support sustainable practices *, adopt sustainable practices in our daily lives, such as reducing our carbon footprint, supporting local businesses, and promoting environmental conservation. Promote dialogue and understanding *, foster constructive dialogue and mutual understanding among diverse communities and viewpoints. Listen actively, seek common ground, and work towards collaborative solutions. Empower others *, support and empower marginalized communities, amplify their voices, and advocate for their rights and inclusion in decision-making processes. Embrace technology responsibly *, use technology ethically and responsibly, promote digital literacy, and defend privacy rights and democratic values. Build resilient communities *, work together with neighbors, colleagues, and community leaders to build resilient communities that can withstand and recover from crises. Invest in education and training *, support education and training programs that equip people with the skills and knowledge needed to thrive in the digital economy. Vote and participate *, exercise our democratic rights by voting in elections, participating in civic engagement, and holding elected officials accountable. In conclusion, the future of humanity is in our hands. By engaging actively, responsibly, and compassionately, we can navigate the challenges ahead and create a more sustainable, equitable, and just world for generations to come. Let us seize this moment and work together to build a better future for all. Conclusion: navigating the gathering storm, humanity's uncertain future. The challenges and opportunities outlined in this book underscore the complex and interconnected nature of the issues facing humanity in the 21st century. From climate change and geopolitical instability to social inequality and technological disruption, the gathering storm ahead demands urgent and collective action. While the road ahead may be fraught with uncertainties, there are clear paths forward that can lead to a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable future. Key reflections. 1. Climate change and environmental sustainability *. Climate change poses an existential threat to our planet and requires immediate action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and transition to renewable energy sources. Protecting and restoring natural ecosystems is crucial for mitigating climate impacts and preserving biodiversity. 2. Geopolitical instability and global governance *. The shifting balance of geopolitical power and the breakdown of global institutions threaten international peace and security. Strengthening multilateral cooperation and reforming international institutions are essential for addressing global challenges. 3. Social inequality and economic justice *. The widening wealth gap and social unrest underscore the need for policies that promote economic justice, social inclusion, and equal opportunities for all. Empowering marginalized communities and promoting human rights are essential for building a more just and equitable society. 4. Technological disruption and the future of work *. Technological advancements have the potential to enhance productivity and living standards, but they also pose risks such as job displacement and inequality. Investing in education, reskilling programs, and fair labor practices is crucial for ensuring that the benefits of technological progress are shared equitably. 5. The weaponization of information and cyber warfare *. Defending democracy, promoting digital literacy, and strengthening cybersecurity measures are essential for combating the weaponization of information and cyber threats. Developing clear legal frameworks and international norms for cyber operations is crucial for maintaining peace and security in the digital age. 6. A call to engage *. Navigating the gathering storm ahead requires collective action and global cooperation from individuals, communities, businesses, and governments. Advocating for climate action, promoting peace and stability, fighting inequality, embracing technological innovation, and defending democracy are key actions we can take. Moving forward, as we navigate the uncertain future ahead, it is imperative that we take decisive action *. Addressing the challenges outlined in this book requires bold and decisive action from all sectors of society. Build resilience *. Strengthening resilience to climate impacts, geopolitical tensions, and technological disruptions is essential for navigating future uncertainties. Promote equity and justice *. Ensuring that all people have access to opportunities, resources, and rights is fundamental for building a more equitable and just society. Foster global cooperation *. Collaboration and cooperation among nations, organizations, and individuals are essential for addressing global challenges. Conclusion. In conclusion, the gathering storm ahead presents humanity with unprecedented challenges and opportunities. By taking collective action and embracing shared responsibility, we can build a future where sustainability, equity, and justice prevail. The time to act is now. Let us work together to navigate the gathering storm and create a brighter and more resilient future for generations to come. Afterward, a call to engage. The journey towards a sustainable and just future begins with each of us. It requires active engagement, responsibility, and compassion in our communities, workplaces, and civic institutions. Here are key actions we can take to drive positive change. Educate ourselves *. Stay informed about critical issues and developments impacting our world. Advocate for change *. Speak out in support of policies and initiatives that promote sustainability, justice, equality, and democracy. Support sustainable practices *. Adopt sustainable practices in our daily lives and support businesses and organizations that prioritize sustainability. Promote dialogue and understanding *. Foster constructive dialogue and mutual understanding among diverse communities and viewpoints. Empower others *. Support and amplify the voices of marginalized communities and advocate for their rights. Embrace technology responsibly * use technology ethically and responsibly, promote digital literacy, and defend privacy rights. Build resilient communities * collaborate with others to build resilient communities that can withstand and recover from crises. Invest in education and training * support education and training programs that equip people with the skills needed for the future. Participate in democracy * exercise our democratic rights by voting, engaging in civic activities, and holding leaders accountable. In conclusion, the future of humanity rests in our hands. By engaging actively, responsibly, and compassionately, we can navigate the challenges ahead and build a more sustainable, equitable, and just world for future generations. Let us seize this moment and work together to create a better future for all.